You're looking for a tool that lets you take those tiny, frustrating cuts, whether it's a piece of brass for a model engine, a thin PCB slot, or a delicate jewelry component, and actually finish the job without turning the whole workshop upside down. The fear most of us have is ending up with a machine that promises laser-sharp precision on paper but ends up being a noisy, underpowered box that sits on the bench and gathers dust. You want something that feels solid enough to trust day after day, easy enough to set up so you don't waste hours just getting it to run, and priced so you don't have to wonder if you just threw away your money. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Proxxon Micromot FF230 is Proxxon's answer to that niche of precision milling for the serious hobbyist. It's not a CNC router you'd buy for a full-size wood project, nor is it a cheap handheld that you'll replace after a few jobs. It sits in that sweet spot where the tool is built to handle the fine work of model making, prototype parts, and small-scale metal or plastic machining, while still being compact enough to live on a standard workbench. First, let's talk about how it actually feels when you pull it out of the box. The machine's weight is modest, light enough that you can move it around when you need to rearrange your bench, yet heavy enough that it doesn't vibrate wildly when you're cutting at the lower speed range. That lower speed is where the Poly V-belt really shines. The belt design gives the Micromot a high torque output where you need it most, when you're milling soft metals or dense plastics at a crawl. In practice, I've seen people use it to cut a 1 mm thick aluminum sheet for a miniature engine block, and the belt kept the spindle steady without stalling, which is a common complaint on cheaper units. The 360-degree drill head rotation is another practical win. Unlike some benchtop mills that lock you into a single axis, the Micromot lets you swivel the head in 1-degree increments, and the built-in display shows exactly where you are. That's a small detail that makes a big difference when you're trying to align a cut on a tiny PCB trace. You can set the head, lock it, and then focus on the feed without constantly guessing. I've watched hobbyists use this feature to mill a series of evenly spaced slots for a custom switch plate. The precision of the angle spacing saved them from having to measure each slot by hand. Now, who should actually consider buying this? If you're a model engineer, a scale model shipbuilder, a jewelry maker who needs to carve fine details in gold or silver, or even a maker who frequently works with acrylic and wants to drill and mill small holes without resorting to a drill press plus a separate mill, the Micromot is a strong candidate. Its size and torque make it comfortable for those repetitive, high-precision tasks that would otherwise require a full-sized CNC or a series of hand tools. It also fits nicely for anyone who already owns a Proxxon ecosystem. Spindles, collets, and accessories are interchangeable, which can stretch your budget further. On the flip side, if your primary work involves larger stocks, say, you're cutting 20 mm thick hardwood or doing production-level metal work, the Micromot will feel underpowered and cramped. It's also not the best choice if you're looking for a plug-and-play CNC solution. There's no integrated controller for automated passes, so you'll be operating it manually. And because the machine is an international product, you may be ordering it from abroad, which can affect shipping times and, occasionally, the exact configuration of accessories that come in the box. Some users have reported that the belt, while delivering high torque, does require occasional tension adjustments after several hours of use. That isn't a deal breaker, but it's something you should be comfortable handling. A practical weakness that shows up when you start using it for continuous work is the cooling. The spindle runs at decent speeds for small cuts, but because the unit is compact, there isn't a dedicated fan system blowing across the bearing. If you run it for a long stretch, say, a half hour of continuous milling on brass, you'll notice the motor getting warm. In a real workshop, that means you should plan short breaks or keep an eye on the temperature, especially if you're milling materials that generate a lot of heat. Another point to consider is the accessory ecosystem. Proxxon does offer a range of collets, cutting tools, and even a small work table that can be bolted onto the base. However, the initial package often comes with just the basics. If you need a specific 0.5 mm end mill or a dedicated spindle speed controller, you'll be adding to the cost. That said, the price point of the Micromot itself is already positioned as a mid-range entry into precision milling, so the extra spend on accessories is usually justified by the versatility you gain. Let's walk through